first.
You gotta go get some water. I picked up a
I know I'm talking to people that want to be here, so it doesn't hurt my feelings at all. How many of you have been to the previous sales training workshops that I've done? Okay, so today we're going to be getting into kind of some of the psychology of breaking down people, how they work, getting to the core of their personal emotional needs. So I want to make it clear that I never want anyone to utilize any of these tools for anything other than ethically trying to help someone else reach the goals that they want to reach. Because a lot of the tools that I'm going to teach you today are very powerful tools getting to someone's personal emotional needs. And if you don't have ethical, pure intentions, you could utilize those to bridge the gap between their personal emotional needs and a product that they don't really want.
Yeah. So don't use it against me.
I just want to make that clear. Like this is something that if you haven't been to the rest of my trainings, I want to make it clear that I am emphatic that this is all to be used ethically in order to get your prospective client, your customer, whatever, to whatever product that they want. But you're going to get to their personal emotional needs utilizing this method. So this is called the Socratic method, okay? The Socratic sales method. And you can see in your handout there, we'll get to these pretty quickly, but the first thing we always want to do, anytime we're learning a new concept, and today you'll be learning the Socratic method of sales, which is asking questions to elicit the personal emotional needs of the prospect, the client, whoever it is you're dealing with. So anytime you're learning a new concept, if you go into that from a positive emotional state, you're going to be more likely to learn more about that faster. You're going to acquire more of those talents, more of those abilities at a more rapid rate. So I want everyone here to think of the last time that you were really, like, imagine or recall or remember a time in your life when you were really proud of yourself, when you accomplished something that you can look back upon and that was an achievement that you are fond of. It was something that you can look back on and now you could almost be there in that moment. You could remember that thing that you achieved, you accomplished, whether it was graduating from college, whether it was, baking the perfect birthday cake for that loved one that you cared about, or it could have been finishing a race first. I don't care what it was, but for you, now I want you to go back there in that moment and just really recall that and set that positive emotional mental state now. And if you could imagine on a scale from 1 to 10, wherever you are, like 1, I barely feel it, 10, I could be there right now. Try to just see if you could turn it up, like on the volume on a television, like those old dials, or just on a remote control. Just crank it up and just really feel that moment. And just give that a second and just be there. Because that's where we're going to go from whenever we learn the Socratic sales method. Okay? You're capable of learning this. You can pick this up. It's easy. It's actually going to be kind of common sense whenever you get into it, and it's going to feel very natural once we start getting into it. Okay? All right. So the Socratic method is a form of cooperative, argumentative dialogue between individuals based on asking and answering questions to stimulate critical thinking and to draw out ideas and underlying presuppositions. Presuppositions are important, okay? Does anyone here know what a presupposition is? You should, because on the next slide. So A presupposition is something that we all really kind of already have going into any conversation. It's a thing tacitly assumed beforehand at the beginning of a line of argument or a course of action. We all have presuppositions going into any conversation. If somebody pulls up in a 1970 Ford Pinto, you have a presupposition.
Thrifty.
Thank you.
What'd you say?
Thrifty. If somebody walks up and they're wearing a bright pink sweatshirt,
Right?
you have a presupposition about that person, right? We all have presuppositions that are happening rapidly, okay? They're happening rapidly. So we want to dig down on those presuppositions. We want to really hammer those things out, okay? So presuppositions boil down to beliefs, assumptions, generalizations, absolutes, tribes, associations, consequences, and presumptions. Okay? So we all have these ideas about others, you know. Some people have these ideas about males, some people have these ideas about females, some people have these ideas about Mexicans, blacks, whites. Like we have presuppositions, we have these ideas, these generalizations. We want to get past all of that and rapidly connect with that individual on an individual basis. So we want to eliminate as many of these presuppositions as possible. And that's what the Socratic sales method is all about, is getting past generalizations, getting past those presuppositions, trying to dig down to the core of what somebody else is thinking whenever they come to us seeking a product, okay? A service, something of that nature. So the Socratic system, what sources are necessary for a successful transaction? Okay? We all want a successful transaction, interaction. There are certain resources that are necessary, okay? Number one, we have to identify personal emotional needs. So the first thing is we always have to know, why now? Almost no salespeople that I talk to ever ask the question, why today? Why right now? What's the urgency? You could have done anything with your day today. You decided to look at houses. You decided to call me about this listing. Why now? What's going on right now in your life that today? Like maybe this was the day you scheduled it. Or maybe you got 15 days to get out of your lease. Like, I don't know, but I need to know, why now? You could have done anything with your time. How did you get stuck doing this? Today, of all days, having to do this right now, why now? So the first thing we do in Socratic sales is we find out why now. Why right now? Why this second? Once we find out the why, we identify the timeline. Okay, how much time are we working with? How soon, when does this need to happen? Right? And you'll see a lot of this on your handouts, and you can write notes as we go along, but how soon does this need to happen? When does this need to happen? Just so I know what I'm working with here, I want to make sure I don't waste your time, you don't waste my time. If I can't meet your needs within the right time frame, then obviously I don't want to do that. So how soon, when do we need to do that? Now we need to find out their need and energy level. How big is this problem and what's their ultimate outcome? Okay? So the next question, after you go with why now, and then how soon does this need to happen? What's our timeline? Next is, well, how big is the problem? Like, what type of outcome are you needing? Why is this a big problem for you that you need to solve now? Like, it seems like you wanted to fix some situation in your life. How big is this problem? I mean, and what's the ultimate outcome? Sometimes right here, I actually even put in the magic genie question. And a lot of people love this one because it almost takes away the close. I'll say, I'm not saying I am, but let's say I am a magic genie and I could snap my fingers and I could grant you 3 wishes. What would be the 3 things that you want to happen after this conversation? Like if you could just give me 3 things like that you want to be the absolute goal so that I know what to shoot for. Because if I can't do it, I'm just gonna tell you. Because I'm not a genie. But maybe I am for you. So snap my fingers. What 3 things would you want accomplished after we talk? Your outcomes, your goals, your wishes. And almost every time in whenever I deal with potential clients, this is where I close them. They give me everything I need to know in that conversation when they tell me the outcome that they want. Okay? So all I'm doing right now though is I'm asking questions. So far all I've done is ask questions. Why now? Why is it, what's the rush? Does it have to happen now? Is today the only time that you have? Like why now? Why today? And salespeople they miss this. I don't know why, but this will let you know the sense of urgency. This will let you know what's going on right now in their life. And then how soon does this need to happen for you? Like when do we need a solution by? What type of time frame am I working with? And then how big is the problem? Is huge. How much of a headache are you dealing with right now? What type of negative energy is going on in your life right now that you're having to deal with? Why? Because this is you're looking for a solution for some reason, or else you wouldn't have called me. You wouldn't be, if you were happy, you wouldn't be talking to me. So how big of a problem is this for you? Okay. Sometimes here too, I'll ask, what if nothing changes? So what if you don't find a solution? What if nothing changes? What's the ultimate? What's the outcome? A lot of times you'll find out then that they're really not that interested in doing anything that quickly. And so they don't have that big of a need now. And a lot of times you'll hear them say, oh, that's not an option. Something has to happen right now. Like we have to. It's not okay that nothing changes. Something's got to change. Finally, identify money. What's the budget and who decides to write the check? So this is how you find out whether or not you're dealing with a decision maker. So I'll ask a lot of the times, I'll say, okay, what's our bottom dollar? Like, what's our budget? And who decides who writes the check? Is that you? Is it a committee? Or is this a trust? Is it you and your husband? Who am I dealing with here? And people will just be absolutely happy to tell you who the decision maker is. It doesn't matter what product or service you're selling, but they're absolutely happy to tell you at that time, oh yeah, no, we have to go through a committee, it's a board, it's trust approval. No, it's just me and my husband, we're the ones that decide, okay, so I'm going to be showing you and your husband then properties, since that's who writes the check, not just you. Because I don't present to people who aren't the decision makers. Like I don't want to waste your time, you don't want to waste my time. This is a problem for you, you want a solution, I'm here to provide that. So I need the decision makers in the vehicle. Okay? So that's who we present to, are the decision makers. That's why you ask this question. You want decision makers in the car with you making decisions. You don't want, well, I have to ask so-and-so. We get that up front, and that's who we present to. Or we know about it ahead of time, and we know that we're not presenting to every party that's going to be responsible, but we know the channels we have to go through. Me personally, I don't present to anybody but the decision makers, period. So if I go into a company and they tell me, hey, we're more than happy to hear your presentation. Unfortunately, all of the board members aren't present. We can't really make a decision unless all the board members are present. No problem. When can we schedule a time I can come back and present to everybody, because I don't want to waste your time. And as we agreed upon, I was going to present to everybody that was, going to be capable of making a decision. And I don't want you trying to relay the information to somebody else. I mean, that's what I do. That's my job. I don't need you trying to do my job. So, all right. Very, very important. Salespeople need to learn these things, okay? These are what we call buffering statements. These are trust-building statements. These are ways of softening the blow whenever you ask questions or whenever you have to give information that is sometimes going to be something that your client or prospect doesn't want to hear, okay? This may sound crazy, and I could be wrong. And believe me, I'm no expert. Let me ask you a question. And correct me if I get anything wrong here. And stop me if I'm missing something. And I know you probably already know this. And I'm sure you've already done your research. And as you're well aware, and I can tell that you already know this, but you'll have to help me understand. Because you know more about this than I do. These are all buffering statements. They build trust. They gain access to the subconscious of the person you're dealing with in order to break down walls. Okay? These are ways of not being arrogant. These are ways of accessing a person's real personal emotional needs. Questions like, this may sound crazy, but I'm just going to throw this out there. It sounds like you have to have a swimming pool. Am I wrong? Like, I could totally be wrong. Stop me if I'm missing something, but is it credit score? Is that an issue here? Is that what you're really concerned about mostly? I'm sure you've already done your research. Believe me, I'm not trying to impose my opinion here or anything, but is a down payment the biggest concern? Is that something that's really holding you back and making you wonder about this deal? See, these are all ways of getting to someone's real, what their hang-ups are, without feeling like you're asking something, being intrusive. You're asking for permission in a way that is psychologically breaking down the barriers. So we call these buffering statements. Does that make sense? I'm telling you guys, this will open up your psychology in personal and professional relationships. If you start utilizing these buffering statements in just one-on-one conversations with friends, they will give you access to information that they never would have before. Just by utilizing buffering statements. Because it breaks down those barriers. You're not assuming anything. You're not trying to impose your belief system. It might sound crazy. I don't know. But you might try it. Okay? Make sense? All right. Let's talk about the pen push, okay? I call it the pin push. Personal emotional need push, okay? It's kind, it's professional, and it's powerful. It gets you to the personal emotional needs of someone else. I call it the pin push because it is kind, it's professional, but it's powerful. It's a push, okay? It gets to the personal emotional needs of the client. Why now? Okay, we're going to focus on the why now real quick. How did you get talked into doing this today? Oh, okay. She's like, I didn't. Seriously, so one of the first things I'll ask somebody whenever they call me up and ask me the price on something, I'll be like, how did you get suckered into doing this today? Okay? That's how you find out whether or not it's them personally or they're looking for themselves or someone else. Okay? So sometimes it's not them looking for themselves. Okay? So this is how I figure out the why now. A lot of times is I'll say, how'd you get tucked into doing this job today? Oh, I want to get this stuff. You know, you'll get the gamut of things. They're like, my sister's looking for a new place, and so I'm trying to get pricing on this type of floor plan, and she wants in this school district, and blah 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 blah. So it's not really her then that you're selling to, right? So sometimes you'll get like, well, it's just something that I have to get done. So then I'll dig a little deeper and I'll go, but why today though? I mean, it's Monday, you know, it's really not even an important day. It's, you know, the second of the month. Why today? Why was today the important day that you picked up the phone and decided to call me? A lot of times that's the second digging deeper. I'll get to the real core of what's going on. Well, I'm under the gun. I put it off as long as I can. If I don't find some pricing today, if I don't get some solutions today, chances are I won't be able to qualify for this loan that I'm looking for by the end of the quarter. I have to get it done, have to get my application in, blah, blah, blah. So you'll find out, digging in, get a little deeper, okay? So, but why today, though, really? So the why now question is something that most salespeople overlook, and it's so imperative to get the why now. Why today? What about it today had to happen today? Okay? Because there was a reason you got contacted today. All right?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're asking these questions, why now? Why today? Do you feel, to me, I think I would feel like they're thinking, why are you calling me? I don't have time for you.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
Like you're trying to push them away.
Sure.
This really isn't important, you know.
And that's why I led before I went into this. That's why I led with buffering statements.
Okay.
Was because you have to be personable about this.
Okay.
It does take a little bit of class to ask the why now questions. You don't want to be dismissive of people.
Right.
But you do want to get them to commit. So we do want to know why now, but we also want them to feel human. We want them to feel heard, okay? So we want to say, this may sound crazy, but why now? Why today?
Okay.
Does that help?
It does.
Yeah. So that's it. Buffering statements are imperative. They are absolutely necessary. We do want the core. I want you to get the meat. I want you to understand that we have a reason that we're doing this. There's a process. There's a funnel, and it has a stair step. But utilizing the buffering statements will get you. They're kind of like the chain that gets you to every step along the way. Okay. So, what happens if you don't find a solution? So once you find the why now, then you get to what happens if you don't find a solution. This is going to let you know how important it is for this person to close a deal. No matter what product or service it is you're selling. This question right here will let you know how important it is to this individual to find a solution. Okay? What happens if you don't find a solution? What kind of answers do you think you'll hear?
Be homeless.
Be homeless? Something else?
Kill me.
My wife's gonna kill me. He's not wrong.
Right?
Listen to that. Listen to that. That's important.
She's the decision maker.
Correct. What did we just learn?
Yeah.
Decision maker is wife. Right.
Always.
So we need, yes, almost always. So we need her involved in the conversation. So what's the next thing you say whenever he says, my wife's gonna kill me if I don't?
When can we see her too?
Fantastic. What's your wife's name? And obviously she needs to be involved in this conversation. Sounds like she's in a pretty important role in your life. Well, at this point, we've only been talking to one person, so we're not going to assume anything. But now that he's brought her into the picture, she matters.
Yeah.
So that's what these questions get to, are things like that. I have a wife. I could be homeless. What else might you hear on something like this? What happens if you don't find a solution? I could get divorced. Oh shit, hope not.
I'm sure.
What else might you hear?
Might not be approved for foster parenting.
Oh my,
Job.
fantastic. Okay, I might not get approved for foster parenting. Wow. Okay, so is that a really big deal for you? Is that important for you to get approved for that?
One of my clients it was.
Okay, so what type of time crunch are we on? Like, how fast do we need to know? So you've just opened up the whole conversation, right? And you found out what the real incentive is. What's the real incentive? Why are they looking? They want to foster. That's their goal. So that's what you appeal to, is their personal emotional needs, and try to fulfill that if you can. If you have a product that's going to fit that prospect's need, that's what you appeal to. Okay? Why is it a bad thing for you to end up homeless? Why would it be a bad thing for you to not be approved for foster care? This may sound crazy. Let me ask you a question, and this may sound crazy, but why for you would it be a bad thing for you not to be approved for foster care?
Adopt kids. Have to be there for kids that don't have relations home.
You guys seeing what's happening? You're digging down to personal emotional needs. Connecting with them one-on-one. Do they want to work with you? Now that you're digging, yeah, absolutely. Because you care. That's why I'm telling you, this is kind. It's professional. Okay? If that were to happen, then what? If you weren't to get approved for foster care, then what would you do, you think? Just out of curiosity. You guys enjoying this?
Yes.
Yeah. Any takeaways at the moment? Anything that stands out to you?
My husband must have taken this course because he uses some of those
He uses-
same lines and I want to kill him.
Yeah.
I know he's messing with me now.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Well, and communications experts all utilize buffering statements. And so if you have HR professionals, salespeople, if you ever deal with someone who's a therapist or, psychiatrist, whenever in my industry, hypnotist, we all utilize buffering statements where we have these ways of accessing somebody's personal emotional needs by utilizing buffering statements. So buffering statements will make you seem like that you are getting to the heart of any individual. So that if I could really exemplify anything, it would be that. But you have to have a goal, like with anything. We started out this course by talking about setting a well-formed outcome. You guys remember that? Creating a well-formed outcome? And so if you don't have a goal, whenever you begin using buffering statements, you're going to spin yourself in a circle. So you're just going to be saying, well, this might sound crazy, and I may not know really what I'm, talking about here, but could you just elaborate on that a bit more? So you have to have a goal in mind before you start using buffering statements, right? So how do we create a well-formed outcome? Do you guys remember? The pure model. Yes, Pam. What was it? She's right.
Let's see. I gotta find it.
Realistic, I remember that one.
Right.
Is that what the R is?
So
Yeah.
pre-framing.
So before we start with the Socratic sales method, before we start asking questions, we have to have an end goal in mind. So how do we create the end goal, the well-formed outcome that we want?
Positively state.
What does that mean, Pam?
Say what you do want, not what you don't want.
Correct. Give me an example.
I want to lose weight versus I don't want to gain weight.
Very good. Okay, so I would actually say that I want to be X amount of pounds. So like, I want to be 185 pounds instead of I want to lose weight. Would be even more positively stated as the end goal that you want. Okay, so a lot of times what I'll have happen is people will come into one of my workshops, or they'll come in as a client and they'll say, I want to stop smoking, or I want to stop binge eating, I want to stop doing a certain thing. What happens is, in the brain, it's no different than if I said, don't imagine a black cat running across the floor. What happens?
There it goes.
Yeah, you see a black cat running across the floor, right? The reason that happens is because our brain has to interpret or translate that little thing that I just said. And so what it does is it creates a concept in the mind, an abstract concept, but that activates mirror neurons if it's something that you want to do. So if it's binge eating, if it's smoking, if it's something of that nature, and you say, I want to stop smoking, what happens is the minute you say that, your brain activates mirror neurons and you begin seeing yourself doing that thing that you want to stop doing, and you actually continue to want to do it. So we have to make it positively stated. So we have to say what we do want, not restating what we don't want.
And how would you say that? Like if it was, instead of saying, I want to stop smoking.
Right.
Say.
So we have to do something completely different, like I want to take control of my health and not be bound to any type of addiction. Does that make sense? So something along that nature would be positively stated. Okay? Now, what's the next line?
Under your control.
Right. What does that mean?
What you can do, not what's dependent on what others do.
Correct. So apply that to the Socratic sales method. I'm going into a meeting with somebody. I'm going to use the Socratic sales method. I'm going to ask them about their personal emotional needs. I'm going to dig deep, but my outcome is positively stated. Now it's got to be under my control. So what is my mindset when I go into that meeting?
You're gonna rock it.
I'm going to rock it. What else?
I'm gonna solve their problem.
I'm gonna solve their problem. What else?
I'm gonna get the deal.
I'm gonna get the deal. Is that under your control?
No.
Good.
I'm going to ask buffering statements.
I'm gonna ask and use buffering statements. All right, what else? Positively stated, under your control. Going into a meeting, you're gonna use all these tools. How do you set your mindset? How do you set it up? Your well-formed outcome.
I'm going to do my best to connect with my audience.
Perfect. I'm gonna meet their needs. I'm gonna do my best to connect. I'm gonna hear everything that they have to say. I'm going to pick up on little things little cues, little things that they are not even meaning to say. I'm gonna pick up on everything in order to meet their needs. And if I can potentially meet their needs, I'm going to provide every single resource possible. In fact, I'll even dig back in my brain and find things that I didn't even know I had, and I'll pull them up in order to help meet their needs in this meeting. And I'm going to do that using these tools, these resources. All of that under my control? So far, so good? The one thing we don't do, close the deal. That's not under our control. But everything else, doing the best job we can, connecting, being real, being authentic, being present in the moment, all of that is under our control. Now, what's the next line? What's the next line?
Realistic.
Realistic. Correct. So, all of these things we just said, are they real yet? I'm going to connect with them on a real level. Can I put that in a wheelbarrow and push it around? No. It's just a concept. How do we make that real in our minds? How do we create a well-formed outcome out of that?
Speak it.
Speak
Fire.
it.
What was that?
I said speak it.
Oh, yeah.
Speak it.
Think about it.
Confess it.
Confess it. Good. Let me ask you something. And I've used this analogy before. You drive a Cadillac. What color is it?
Black.
White.
Okay. Is it black? It's not.
That's just my favorite car color.
So the reason I use this analogy is because he stated, and we stated, the exact vehicle that he drives. It's a Cadillac. Is it an SUV or is it a truck or a car? Or?
SUV.
Yeah. Okay. And so far, do you actually drive a Cadillac? It's a real vehicle, right? So far, have we gotten anything else about it right? The color, yeah, but she didn't get it right. Yeah. Did she get the type right? Yeah. SUV? Okay. So far, we don't really know a whole lot about this guy's Cadillac, do we? You know why?
Because he hasn't told us.
We haven't asked.
Have you seen it?
No.
You haven't seen it. So making something real, first of all, it needs visuals. You have to visualize it. See the outcome to make it real. Whatever it is that you're wanting to accomplish, the first thing is visualize it. Make it real. See it in your mind. Okay? Secondly, I want to know how it sounds whenever he starts it up. Whenever he pushes on the gas. I want to know what the radio sounds like whenever it first starts up. I gotta know what it sounds like. In order for this vehicle to be real to me, I have to know what it sounds like. And then I have to know how it's gonna feel whenever I ride it. I have to know how it feels to run my fingers across the body. I gotta know what it feels like, I gotta know what it looks like, I gotta know what it sounds like. So whenever we're creating well-formed outcomes, it's gotta be positively stated, it's gotta be under our control, it's gotta be real, and we gotta know what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like. It's gotta be real. You gotta know that you know that you know. That's the only way that using the Socratic sales method is gonna work, is that you're using these tools to get this well-formed outcome that you've already thought about in your mind. You've already played it out, you already know the outcome that you're gonna get. And finally, what's the last one, Pam?
Ecologically balanced.
Ecologically balanced, most important one. So, we talked about all the different scenarios that we wanted to connect with another person, to be able to listen to them, to be able to meet their needs. Is there any reason why any of those outcomes would be a negative thing?
Might not be good for the other person.
What does that mean?
Our selfish motivations might not necessarily be what that other person needs.
Okay. So,
You know, just because we want to make the sale, they might.
but we already put making the sale off the table.
Yeah.
Like, we know that's not what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to connect with them, we're trying to hear them, we're trying to meet their needs. Is there any way that that is a negative thing?
Not like they don't want to be known.
What's that?
Not like they don't want to be known.
There you go. Okay, so that might be potentially. What if they don't want to feel that exposed? What if they're a very private person and they don't want to be that open? Right? Is that something that you're going to be okay with? Kind of peeling back the layers and getting down to that core of who they are, and they really aren't that comfortable with being that open? Is that okay with you? Do you use these tools to do that? You have to ask yourself. You have to be ecologically balanced about this. What does ecologically balanced mean? Like, if you and I were hiking out in the woods and we came upon a pond and I was like, this is a really ecologically balanced pond, what would that mean?
You got scum in the pond, you got frogs, you got birds, you got deer, you got fish.
It's self-sustaining. Self-sustaining. So it's nothing is winning or losing here. Everything is benefiting in the environment. Does that make sense? So your well-formed outcomes have to be ecologically balanced. In other words, you have to believe that everybody's winning whenever you create this outcome. Okay? So when you're using the Socratic sales method, you have to believe that everybody is winning. And if you're doubting that in any regard, then you will not allow yourself to complete that goal. So you'll be pulling back on the reins the whole time. A few bits. So I'll give you an example of the ecologically balanced that matters. I had a client one time who called me, and she said she wanted to stop smoking. And I said, that's awesome. I'm happy to help you with that. We went through the whole PURE model, got down to the ecologically balanced, and I said, is there any way that this is going to be a negative thing for you in your life to stop smoking? She's like, no way. Like, I definitely need to stop. I'm smoking a pack and a half a day. Like, it's not good. I have to stop. Okay. Is it going to negatively affect anybody else in your life? And all of a sudden she just face dropped and she was like, crap. I did not even think about this, James. said, what's up? She said, well, every night whenever my husband gets home from work, we go out to the back patio and he smokes a cigar, I have a cigarette, glass of wine, glass of scotch. We talk about our day. It's like, it's our time together. Like it's our unwind time. It's what we do every single night. I said, okay, well, hey, I don't want to intrude on that or take away from anything from your life. So is there any other way you guys can have that connection time, or is this something that, are we done? Like, are we at an impasse and you need to kind of go and reassess things? And she said, I have to talk to him. I'm sorry. I can't proceed with this whole thing and not have a conversation with him. Hey, I understand, totally get it. Let me know. So I didn't hear back from her. I just figured, I lost that client, no big deal. Which is why I do this. I want to make sure that they want to be a client. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from her and she said, hey, great news. I am down to smoking 2 cigarettes a day. What happened? She said, I talked to my husband. He said, why don't we just, instead of, you just stopping completely, why don't we just make it to where we only smoke during that little window? Like it's our little reward, like we look forward to it every day. Come home, we'll just sit down, we'll have a cigarette, talk about our day. What if we just limit it to that? Would that work for you? She's like, yeah, it totally would work for me. So that's what they did. And she cut it down from a pack and a half a day to 2 cigarettes a day, just making that small decision. Now, she was like, my husband is still smoking 2 packs a day, but I stuck to it, and that's what I'm doing. I said, hey, are you happy with that? Are you like, is that a good solution for you? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's totally, this works for me. This works in my lifestyle, ecologically balanced. So we want to make sure that whatever outcome it is we're going for, that it's everybody's a winner. Everybody has to win, right? Or else we won't allow ourselves to get there. All right. Almost fully uploaded. Sorry, guys. Did not see that coming.
You have your own packet? If we could follow along.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Where are we at?
Page 4.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Good. So, why is that a bad thing for you? Is the next on the question. And of course, we're using buffering statements all along the way. Don't forget about buffering statements. These are getting to the core of what we want to know, but we never neglect buffering statements in our humanity. Okay. So then the next thing is, how does that make you feel? To think about that outcome. If you weren't able to foster children, how does that make you feel?
Sound pretty awful in the competition.
Right, yeah. So we're getting to the personal emotional need, right? We're digging down deep. So then, is this for you something that has to happen now? Is this now a thing that's like a now thing? Now that we've gotten past how you got talked into this today, now that we've gotten past what if you don't find a solution, now that we've gotten past why is that a bad thing, now that we've gotten past how does that make you feel, so does this need to happen now? Is this for you? Is this something that it really is a now thing? That will create a sense of urgency in them because they've already let you know whether or not this is important. So you've gotten down to that personal emotional need. You've gotten down to like with the fostering thing. Now you're asking, so does that need to happen now? That sense of urgency will create that, whether or not they really need this now or not. Because it's possible that they don't. you're gonna find out sometimes that people don't need this now. And they're just shopping around, and maybe they're wasting your time, and maybe it's okay to not entertain that. That's what this method is for, is trying to figure out who's serious and who isn't. Okay? So, what would you be doing today with your time if this were already taken care of? If this were already resolved, what would you be doing today?
Hiking.
Hiking? What would you be doing today? If this was already resolved, if you had already gotten on the other side of this thing, what would you be doing with your time today?
Riding horses.
Riding horses. Yeah, right? Playing with your kids. What would you be doing with your time today if this were already resolved? If I could take care of this for you, what would you be doing instead today? You've taken them through the entire PEN, personal emotional need pipeline. Taken them through the pain, what they're experiencing, and gotten them on the other side.
Are you asking all of these questions? Or are you just kind of going with the conversation? Are you like trying to make sure you ask all these questions?
All of these questions are important in the push. We want this to be professional, kind, but we want to push. And so we are trying to get to every single one of these questions in order to identify the personal emotional needs, in order to be kind to them, considerate but professional, and find out whether or not this is a real need, a concern, and whether or not we can meet that need. Okay?
Do you try to put like a time limit on it, or how do you follow that? Because I imagine some people can get to talking and then an hour goes by and you're halfway through your questions and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah. So that's why I say the first thing you got to do is set up in your mind the outcome that you want. So you have to really consider and make it real in your mind.
Okay.
Think about the outcome. What do I want out of this conversation? And then use the questions.
Okay.
Okay? And that will dictate your timeline, and it will help you navigate whether or not you're meeting the needs of the outcome that you desire.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay.
In the context of you doing this, like you're interviewing someone, or are you just kind of doing it organically while you're just talking to them?
You want it to be as conversational as possible. Nobody likes to be interviewed, parroted back and forth to. So you want to make this as conversational as possible. However, what you'll find is that at some point, it shifts into a more interrogation style, and they don't even notice. They won't even care, because at that point, they really notice that you are a professional, you know what you're doing, they trust you, you've built that bond with them, and so they begin to just vomit all over you all the information that you're looking for. Okay? And that's really where you're getting to. And that's where you want to go. All right, so we need to find a timeline for a solution, and you refer back to the personal emotional needs. Okay? So, how soon? When do we need to start blank a solution? And that's on my PowerPoint.
But luckily in real estate, right, we're not dealing with such a heavy subject. Like
Right.
if you were dealing with somebody's emotional issue, you know what I mean? So a lot of times we could use these questions if it's on a course of an owner, right?
Right.
And we're saying, what's your motivations for selling? What's your time frame? It's going to be a lot lighter subject, And they're going to be like, yeah, I really need to sell it. And they're like, well, what happens if you, I can't see the question, but what happens if you don't sell this house? Like, well, I've got to, because, we're making 2 payments, and then, what would it look like, if I got this house sold for you and it made sense and, financially for both of us. And they're thinking, oh yeah, take a burden off my plate, and that'd be awesome. So, right, it's we're just going to build it into kind of our real estate conversations and like, how's this?
So you guys can tell right now that Justin's a natural,
Right.
right? Like for him, this comes like second nature. For him, this is nonsensical. He could just have that conversation, wouldn't be a big deal. But for a lot of people, this is a process that most of them don't know how to get through those steps in order to build that rapport, in order to access the personal emotional needs of that buyer, in order to get them to commit. And Justin's just doing it just second nature. Like, so why is this a big deal? What would it do for you guys if I could do this for you? He's just like, nonchalantly, just like, hey, yeah, maybe I can help you, maybe I can't, Like, what is this? How big a deal is this to you guys? I mean, what's going on in your life? Like, why would you care? He's doing exactly the system, but he's just doing it in a very casual way. Yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to follow those steps, okay? And I'm sorry that my PowerPoint went down, but I promise you, everything that he just did right there is laid out everywhere along the lines. And I'll just send you guys the PowerPoint because I think we've hit our hour and a half mark, or hour mark, and I don't want to keep you guys here waiting on my laptop to repower up. So, does anyone have any questions about what we covered?
I think with a little practice, it helped a lot.
A little bit of practice, right?
But it takes some practice.
It does. It takes practice. Like I said, Justin just demonstrated how natural it can be and how you can go about it in a way that's not an interrogation, because I think that was your concern, was that it would be too much like an interrogation. It doesn't need to be like an interrogation. Use your buffering statements. Be very casual about it, but set up in your head beforehand what you want to accomplish. Set out your well-formed outcome, and then utilize the Socratic sales method, asking questions so that you're being kind and professional, okay? In order to get to their personal emotional needs, and then use their personal emotional needs in order to bridge the gap between the product or service that you're trying to provide to them and whether or not it will fill that personal emotional need. Okay? All right.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Thanks, guys.
Great.